Hello students, so we are back with another video on the same chapter which was going on, and that is neural coordination. So till now we have learned that what are the branches of nervous system. We have learned that there are two main branches. One is central and the other one is peripheral. Under central nervous system, we consider brain and spinal cord, because brain and spinal cord, they occupy the central axis of the body. This is the central axis of the body. So along this axis lies the brain, and on the dorsal side lies the spinal cord. After that, we have discussed the structure of brain, structure of spinal cord. That was done, that was discussed. Now another kind of nervous system apart from central is the peripheral nervous system. So this peripheral nervous system, periphery, what is the meaning? Periphery? Periphery means boundary, which is away from the center. So those parts of nervous system which are away from the central axis, and it radiates towards different arms and legs and everything, that constitutes the peripheral nervous system. And under this, there are two types of nerves. One is cranial nerve and the other one is spinal nerve. Cranial is related to the word cranium. Cranium means skull basically, but it is related to brain. So cranial nerves are those which emerge from the brain. How many are there? There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves in our body. In a mammal, there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. And spinal nerves, there are 31 pairs of spinal nerves. These together, they constitute the peripheral nervous system. So peripheral, this word has been used according to the location. But if we consider from the functional functional point of view, then we will see that these nerves basically, they can be a part of this system which I am already showing on the screen, autonomic nervous system. Autonomic comes from the word, or we may relate it with the word automatic. What is automatic? Automatic means anything which takes place spontaneously, even without our conscious decision. Before we can think consciously, it is happening. So that is automatic. So nerves will have an influence over the automatic actions or the functions which take place in our body. That means on the involuntary functions of our body, of different organs of the body. So those nerves will constitute the autonomic nervous system, and there are certain functions which are voluntary, which we can control, which we can consciously decide, and after taking a decision we can perform that action. Like now, I am making this video because I am willing to make this video. I am speaking, I know what I am speaking. I am showing this on my screen, I know what I am showing. So all these actions are coordinated by nerves of my body, by the nervous system. Which nerves or which nervous system? Since for doing all these actions, what do I need? I am moving my hand, which means muscles of my hands are working. Now these muscles, I can control them according to my wish. So these are voluntary muscles. I can control them according to my volition, right? I'm speaking. For speaking, I need my tongue. Tongue is composed of striated muscles which are voluntary, which means the nerves that are supplying my tongue, those nerves are controlling my speech also. So my hand and speech coordination combined with what I am thinking in my brain, this entire thing is carried out by certain nerves, and this thing is voluntary. What I am speaking, what I am showing, I am doing it according to my volition, which means this kind of action is being controlled by somatic nervous system. Why such a name? Somatic nervous system. I had told this in the introductory video that somatic comes from the word soma. Soma means body. So those nerves which are innervating different muscles of my body. Which muscles? The skeletal muscles. Muscles of my hands are skeletal muscles. So nerves which are innervating my skeletal muscles, we will consider them to be under somatic nervous system. And somatic nervous system will be controlling the voluntary actions of our body. Okay? Coming to the visceral organs. Suppose I am eating something. Okay, after I put it inside my mouth, I will swallow. After swallowing, what will happen to the food? It will go down through the esophagus. It will reach the stomach. Now, when it is passing through the esophagus, do I have any control over that motion, over that movement? That okay, up to this much the food will be passing. Then I'll stop the passage of food. Again, after some time, if I wish, the food will go down. Suppose I am, overloaded. My stomach is overloaded. I don't want to eat anymore. But I have taken a piece of food. Okay? And then I don't want to let it go to my stomach. Can I stop it? No. If I have swallowed, it will go down to my stomach. I have no control over it. Why? Because esophagus is made up of smooth, involuntary muscles. The food goes down through esophagus. How? By contraction and relaxation of those muscles. And this phenomenon, alternate contraction and relaxation of these smooth muscles, this phenomenon is known as peristalsis. Peristalsis. Can I control my peristaltic movements? No. Which means it's an involuntary movement, and this movement, peristalsis, will be controlled by this autonomic nervous system. So, autonomic nervous system can be further divided into two parts. One is sympathetic nervous system and the other one is parasympathetic nervous system. Now, what do these indicate? What are these divisions basically? Sympathetic nervous system is basically that kind of nervous system which controls or which comes into action when there is some kind of an emergency. Emergency doesn't always mean that somebody is suffering from heart attack. That's an emergency. No, not like that. Even for survival, what is needed? A basic survival need. Any example? We can take heartbeat, for example. If we need to survive, our heart needs to beat. Okay? So, initiation of that heartbeat, the heartbeat should start at least. So that initiation is done by sympathetic nervous system. So in that respect, we can consider it to be an emergency. Emergency means which is needed, which is the need of the hour. Our heart needs to beat, otherwise we'll die. So sympathetic nervous system controls those actions. Now suppose sympathetic nervous system has initiated the heartbeat and the heartbeat has become too high. Now it needs to slow down. That will be done by this parasympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic nervous system, it brings the body back to normalcy. When there is an emergency, sympathetic nervous system works. When more or less the emergency situation is over, then parasympathetic nervous system comes into action. It restores the normal condition. So we may say that the two systems are working antagonistically. They are working for the same purpose, for controlling heartbeat, but in different ways. So such actions are called antagonistic, serving for the same purpose but in different ways. Okay? Now, as you can see, I have written over here, sympathetic nervous system can also be called thoracolumbar outflow, and parasympathetic nervous system is called craniosacral outflow. Now, for understanding this, we need to understand where these sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system are actually located. So for that, I'll show you one picture. So this is that I'm showing right now. This is the spinal cord. This, follow the cursor, this is the spinal cord. Okay? Spinal cord can be divided into 4 main regions. Okay? C stands for cervical, T stands for thoracic, L stands for lumbar, and S stands for sacral. So these 4 regions are there in spinal cord. Now from cervical region, certain nerve fibers will arise. From thoracic region, certain nerve fibers will arise. From lumbar region also certain nerve fibers will arise. And from sacral region, certain nerve fibers will arise. After emerging from the spinal cord, where will these nerve fibers go? They will go to a chain of ganglia which are situated lateral to the spinal cord. And this chain of ganglia, it is called sympathetic trunk. Sympathetic trunk. Now why this word trunk has been used? Because from this trunk, another new set of nerve fibers will emerge. So one set of nerve fibers coming from the spinal cord to the sympathetic trunk. Another set of nerve fibers emerging from the sympathetic nerves. And where are they going? They are going to different organs of the body. Different organs of the body they are going. Okay? Now, this entire thing that I said, that spinal cord, nerves coming out of spinal cord, going to the sympathetic trunk, from this trunk, new nerve fibers emerging, going to different organs of the body. This entire thing is autonomic nervous system. And it consists of mainly three constituents. What are the 3 constituents? Suppose spinal cord, I can consider it to be the central nervous system. So from spinal cord you see these lines. Follow the cursor. These lines that are emerging, these are nerve fibers. These nerve fibers will be called preganglionic nerve fibers. Preganglionic, because why such a name? Pre means before. So before they meet a ganglion, these nerve fibers emerge. So that is why the name preganglionic nerve fiber. Now in case of sympathetic nervous system, these preganglionic nerve fibers, they emerge from two regions of spinal cord. One is the thoracic region and the other one is the lumbar region. So from two regions, one is thoracic and the other one is lumbar, the preganglionic nerve fibers of sympathetic nervous system arise. Okay? And that is why sympathetic nervous system is considered to be thoracolumbar outflow. Thoracolumbar outflow. Now where are they going? They are meeting this chain of ganglia, this sympathetic trunk. Now sympathetic trunk, it is present on either side of the vertebral column. And each trunk, each side has got 22 ganglia. What is a ganglion? Ganglion is a collection of nerve cell bodies. Okay? So these ganglia, ganglion is singular, ganglia plural. So these ganglia, they are the meeting points of the preganglionic fibers and the nerve fibers which emerge from these ganglia. So basically the sympathetic trunk, it consists of synapses between the preganglionic fibers and the postganglionic fibers. What are the postganglionic fibers? See these lines, follow these lines. The postganglionic fibers, they emerge from the sympathetic trunk. From the sympathetic trunk they emerge. And then after emerging, they innervate different organs of the body, as you can see, eye, lacrimal gland, salivary glands, heart, lungs, stomach, intestine. So all organs of the body, all the visceral organs of the body, these are being innervated by then the postganglionic fibers. Okay, so basically autonomic nervous system, therefore it consists of, if I go back to the slide, it consists of the central nervous system, from where the preganglionic fiber is coming out. Preganglionic fiber is going to autonomic ganglia, which means the sympathetic trunk. From the sympathetic trunk, the postganglionic fibers are coming out. Postganglionic fibers are then going to different organs, different visceral muscles, different glands. Okay? Now, these sympathetic ganglia, which means the autonomic ganglia, they are of three types. Cervical. Why cervical? Because they emerge from the cervical region, from here, just below the brain, from there. They can be collateral. Now these collateral ganglia, the nerve fibers which come out of the collateral ganglia, which means the postganglionic fibers coming out of the collateral ganglia. These postganglionic fibers, they innervate the abdominal organs, abdominal arteries, abdominal organs. And then comes the terminal ganglia. terminal ganglia, from there the nerve fibers, the postganglionic fibers which come out, they supply the pelvic organs like the urinary bladder, the rectum. These are supplied by the postganglionic fibers which emerge from the terminal autonomic ganglion. So, three types of autonomic ganglia are present: cervical, collateral, terminal. Okay, I hope I could make you understand. Now, if I go back to the picture, sympathetic fibers, their preganglionic nerve fibers, the length of the preganglionic nerve fibers are short in comparison to the postganglionic nerve fibers. See, the postganglionic nerve fibers are longer. They are covering longer distances. They are going to faraway organs. So in case of sympathetic nervous system, students, please remember, the preganglionic nerve fibers are shorter. The postganglionic nerve fibers are longer in length. Okay. One more feature is the sympathetic nerve fibers. We can also consider them to be. Cholinergic nerve fibers. Cholinergic nerve fibers. Adrenergic nerve fibers. Adrenergic. There are two types of nerve fibers. One is adrenergic, one is cholinergic. Adrenergic nerve fibers are those which release neurotransmitters which are different from acetylcholine. So basically these are the neurotransmitters are noradrenaline. Noradrenaline is a chemical which is generally released from adrenal medulla. But these noradrenaline, they can serve as neurotransmitters also. So the sympathetic nerve fibers are generally adrenergic, and the parasympathetic nerve fibers are cholinergic, which means parasympathetic nerve fibers, from their axon endings, they release acetylcholine. So this is one more difference between sympathetic and parasympathetic. One more thing, if you see this picture, the postganglionic nerve fibers, I am showing the picture of sympathetic nervous system. So the postganglionic fibers, you see, they join, and after joining, they supply to a variety of organs. Suppose, say this one, carotid artery and plexus, which means plexus means network of blood vessels. So these blood vessels, they are supplied by sympathetic nerves. Now from here you see so many nerve fibers are emerging. The postganglionic nerve fibers are emerging, supplying to a variety of organs, supplying to the eye, to the salivary gland. Okay, again see these postganglionic fibers, they are supplying to heart, to the larynx, to the lungs. That means sympathetic fibers, the postganglionic sympathetic fibers, they supply to a wide range of organs, and that is why they have a widespread effect. They have effects on multiple organs. So multiple effects can be observed when sympathetic nervous system is stimulated. If I am tensed, suppose I am in a tensed situation, in a worrisome situation. So how many changes can be observed in my body? My heart rate will accelerate. First of all, who will do that? Sympathetic. As my heart rate will accelerate, more oxygen will be pumped to the organs, to my organs, so the metabolism will increase. As the metabolism will increase, more energy will be given out. Okay? The glands will be stimulated. Because if metabolism has to be increased, my thyroid gland has to be stimulated. Okay? If thyroid is stimulated, what will happen? Metabolism will increase and the temperature, my body temperature will increase. Now, in order to keep a control on my temperature, what do I need to do? What do my body need to do? It needs to regulate the temperature, which will be done by the sweat glands. Because my temperature is increasing. If it increases too much, then the organs will fail to function. So in order to keep a balance, sweat glands, they have to be activated. So I will sweat profusely. So heart rate accelerated, thyroid gland stimulated, metabolism stimulated, liver will also be stimulated. Because for energy, we need glucose. So glycogen should be broken down to glucose. So liver affected, sweat glands affected. So you see multiple effects. Multiple effects. So sympathetic nervous system has a widespread effect. Okay? Compared to that, if I show you this picture, this one, this is the picture of parasympathetic nervous system. This is called craniosacral outflow. Why such a name? Because it emerges from the midbrain and the medulla oblongata, that means the brain stem. Brain stem is which part? Which part do we say brain stem? Brain stem constitutes the midbrain and pons varolii, medulla oblongata, they together constitute the brain stem. So from there, the nerves that emerge, the nerve fibers which emerge, they are a part of parasympathetic nervous system, and from the sacral part of spinal cord. From there, certain nerve fibers emerge. They also constitute the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so that is why it is called craniosacral outflow. Craniosacral outflow. Okay, now in case of parasympathetic nerve fibers, if you see carefully, these are the preganglionic fibers, and these are, suppose this is one postganglionic fiber. This is another postganglionic fiber. Now you observe carefully, the preganglionic fibers are longer in length and the postganglionic fibers are shorter in length. These are shorter. So this is a difference, or this is a dissimilarity between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. In case of sympathetic, the preganglionic fibers were shorter, postganglionic fibers were longer. Here it's the reverse. Okay, this is one difference. One more difference is the parasympathetic fibers, they supply to a specific organ or to a group of closely related organ. So their effect is not so widespread, because I told you they are basically concerned with restoring the normal condition, restoring normalcy. So that's why their effect is not so widespread and they supply lesser number of organs. Unlikely, sympathetic nervous system supplies to a wide range of organs, so the effect is also widespread. Okay, so these are the basic differences between sympathetic, parasympathetic, and one more difference I have already mentioned. Parasympathetic nerve fibers are cholinergic, sympathetic nerve fibers are adrenergic. So these are the main points of differences. But whether it is sympathetic or parasympathetic, this is the design that from central nervous system, preganglionic fibers will come out. They will reach autonomic ganglia. From autonomic ganglia, the postganglionic fibers will emerge and they will supply to the muscles and the glands. And the autonomic ganglia, they are 22 in number on each side of spinal cord or vertebral column. That is applicable for both sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So this is all about the autonomic nervous system. So with this, we have come to an end to the discussion about the different kinds of nervous system. We have discussed central nervous system, its parts, its functions, locations, and in this video we discussed autonomic nervous system, how it works, what are the parts, what are the locations, what are the differences between the types of autonomic nervous system. Okay, so this is all about types of nervous system. The next thing that we have to learn is how actually the functions are coordinated. Okay, like I will record the video, I will upload it, you will see the video, you will understand it, you will try to comprehend it. So viewing the video, registering it in the brain, comprehending it, so these actions need to be coordinated. How is this thing happening? How the coordination is taking place? So that we have to learn, and that we will be discussing in the next video. Okay, so till then, you go through this video, you see whether you have understood or not, and if you have any doubts, you can write in the comment section. If you like the video, please press on the like button and then share the video. Those who have not yet subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, so till then, bye-bye.